Should be rocking and rolling right away here. Got it. Okay, we are live. So hello, everybody. Welcome to Ambitious Mondays.
Yes.
Oh, I gotta turn down my, I'm echoing. We're gonna have technical difficulties.
Of course, right?
Okay, I got rid of it. We should be good. Okay, so welcome to Ambitious Mondays, everybody. My name is Mara, if you don't know me. And this is Marcy, and I'm pumped to interview her today because if there's anybody that has a real game that is so fun and energetic and makes you really know who the person is so quickly, then you are somebody to follow for sure on Instagram. So I just want to start with, today we're going to talk a lot about, I'm in the hospital, so my lighting's terrible, but
gorgeous.
Gorgeous, darling. I'm literally sleeping in the hospital. So what are you going to do with your hair, right? So one thing that I really wanted to touch on today is how important it is for moms or women to be able to use their life experience and what's going on. Because we always hear like document, don't create. And so that's confusing sometimes because we always hear like the theory behind these things, but then to actually put them into practice is another thing. Mm-hmm. And in the last 2 weeks, I feel crystal clear on a whole bunch of like theory that I've always known, but just kind of cemented it for me. So today what I want to talk to you about is like how you use your life experiences powerfully in your online business. So please introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do, and then let's dive right into that.
Okay, awesome. My name is Marcy, and I, lovingly or not so lovingly, on all over everywhere, I'm known as Marcy K, like that back there, mom boss. I hashtagged myself mom boss because I legit have 7 kids. 7. So if you spit your food out or your drink on your computer and ruined it, it's not my fault. I apologize. And so, I started out in the entrepreneur world by getting into direct selling when, my life went crazy and I drastically needed to come into some income without having to leave my home. Fast forward 7 years, I'm still a founding brand partner with that direct selling company. But through that, I decided to create my own planner system focused strictly on female entrepreneurs and especially moms, because I was struggling with kind of the information that was being given to me or the kind of status quo out there that you had to choose one or the other. And I refused to buy into that. I was like, I can have the and. I want to be a mom and a businesswoman and a wife, and I want to travel and I want to, relax when I want to. And so I decided to create my own system that has now spiraled into a business that has allowed me to be at home. It has allowed me to coach other moms and really just to have those dreams come true, that I can build my business in between the cracks of my life, but put my family first. And that's what I refuse to let go of. I was like, my family is above all things. That's why I'm doing this. So don't tell me that I have to miss my kid's birthday party because otherwise I'm not committed. Like that always bothered me. Right. And there was a lot of that. It maybe not so much now. Maybe it is. I'm just not listening.
Yeah, you're just tuning it out.
Pretty prevalent, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that just goes to show that culture of whoever's working the hardest, the longest, that's happening in corporate, whereas everybody's burning out there, is being transferred over. Can you still hear me? I know my camera just turned off.
Yeah, I can still hear you. You're frozen, but I can.
I'm just gonna keep going. It's just because I'm in the hospital and the Wi-Fi sucks. But basically, one of the things we talked about on the Ambitious Mom Summit recently was the fact that we are literally in a culture and a society right now where the busiest person is celebrated. And so that has literally transferred over into, like you said, into the direct selling space, where it's just like, if it's end of month, you have to, you're going to miss these things. And this is just the way it is. And that's like how you prove you're committed. But at the same time, it's just like, well, that's stupid. Like the whole point of doing a business like this, or an online business for most of us as moms, is because then we actually have the ability to not miss those things. So
yeah.
Sorry, my camera's off. This is like crazy. I might try to zoom in on my phone and just join the meeting.
Yeah, you're okay.
So one thing that I want to talk about is like the Ambitious Mom movement is literally about putting your family first and kicking ass in business. So tell me how you balance those things with 7 freaking kids, please.
Well, technically my oldest went to college last year, but I was on a podcast and I said, oh, I have, 6 kids at home. And I didn't know he was listening to my podcast. So that made my heart a little happy. And then he like texted me. He's like, well, did you forget about me? So I still have to say I have 7 kids or he'll kill me. But I really do have 6 at home. My oldest is going to be a senior. I have twins at the end that just turned 8. And what I've done, what kind of my mantra has been is just like what you were saying. Most women build their businesses from home because they want to be home. They want to embrace what being a mom is. Now, it's not always fun and it's definitely hard, but that's what we are choosing to do. So I just set out to realize I can't run a business as a man does. And most business information out there, most systems that they teach is this hustle mentality, like you said, go, 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 and you're the winner. And if you are running a business as a woman, as a mom, it looks drastically different. But I actually think it's much better because we get to have that structure, that kind of masculine energy of the structure that comes through. And here's my morning routine. And this is when I'm working on, maybe calendar block out my days. But then we get to have that flow as women running our business to go, okay, what do I feel like doing today? What is my intuition telling me that I need to focus on? Or leaving that white space in your calendar to be able to just go with the things like, unfortunately, you're going through, Mara, of just, oh my gosh, I'm at a hospital, but you know what? I still get to do things the way that feels good to me. And I think that's glorious. We have to be more intentional about that too, right?
Yeah. Hold on one sec. I'm going to mute this. 1 sec.
Okay. Oh, the sweet woman. I am just talk about a dedicated businesswoman, right? Like, my goodness gracious. I'd be a hot mess. I could tell you that right now. Not that she's not. Okay. You're on mute.
Now, how about now?
Awesome.
Okay, good. This should be better because it's on my phone. You know what? I was a hot mess, 100%. Like, you can't not be a hot mess when your kid gets diagnosed with brain tumors. And, but at the same time, it's interesting because obviously I pushed all my coaching calls and everything as soon as I found out. And I was going to get back into the swing of things last week. I did a live video last week, but that was about it. And I'm glad because we kind of have been on a roller coaster since again. And today we found out that there is looking like some bacteria in his brain fluid, which is not obviously good, but it's good that we're getting it ahead of time instead of letting it kind of like take them down for, you know what I mean? So, but it could be like another 2 weeks in the hospital before we're even done this stage. But at the same time, when it comes to business, it's like, I know that the lessons that I'm learning right now are so important for other women to hear. And like what you said earlier about how like at one point your whole life fell apart and you were just like, I need to make a change. I need to do something. I have to be home, but I have to be able to make money, whatever. Like we all have these things that happen in our life that we think aren't that special or aren't very unique, but yet so many other women can relate to it and connect with it and need you to show up and tell your story. And so over and over and over, you know this as well as me, like we hear from so many women that they don't have anything to offer. They don't know what they can do for an online business. They don't feel qualified or experienced in something. And it's just like, look around your life and tell me what it is that you have learned or done that you could teach to somebody else, or at least inspire somebody else with. Because when we look at online business and we think, oh, I need this perfect niche, or I need this perfect offer, or I need this perfect whatever, like what I have learned already is like build an audience of people that resonate with the kind of person that you are, the kind of message that you have, and then figure out how you can serve those people, because we think too much about what we need to be able to offer and it doesn't work out, and then we think we fail, and that's not true. Right?
Yeah.
You have to dig deep and figure out like, what is it that I've already experienced in life that I can apply into like a business or an online space? Like, and it doesn't have to just be coaching. Like you just literally filled a gap in the market where you were like, hey, I was overwhelmed with XYZ. I created a full on planner system. And now I literally send it out with what isn't it gift boxes that arrive like every so often? Like that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, you can choose just the planner system only, but the fun thing I think is the monthly subscription box, right? So it's like you get your monthly refills of your planner. So you don't have to carry around a giant planner, right? You get new refills every month. And then all these boss inspired items, office supplies, self-care, fun stuff every month so that you also treat yourself, and it's a tax write-off. So hello, like tax write-off, like a boss right there. Right. But it's like, so that we can also get that gift to ourselves. And I love what you said about finding what's unique to us, but not like hyper focusing. And like a great thing I like to tell, to ladies I coach who have that same kind of a mindset is like going to the grocery store, going to Walmart, go look at the cereal, go look at the coffee, go look at the vacuums. Like no other company went, oh, there's already a vacuum, I'm not going to. No, they just created a new one, right? And they're like, I'm going to promote this different, or I'm going to put a new color on it. Like everything's really already been done. So take that off, that you have to make something that is, nobody's ever done before, because that's really not going to happen. You just have to step into who you are. And as we have had bad things happen to us as kids, as adults, all the things. And then we hold on to these limiting beliefs of we're not good enough, we can't do it, we're not smart enough, all those things that just hold us in. And then we don't step out and just go, this is who I am. Like, love me or leave me, but this is who I am, unique to me. And this is the story I have to share. And here's how I want to help you. Because how I'm going to speak to one person might be totally different than someone else, but I'm going to attract my tribe because of who I am. And so I think when we just can look at it that way, to go, I'm just going to be me and let the chips fall as they lay, I really believe that the right people will be brought to you and you will be put in front of the right people.
Yes, I agree with that. I think the place that people get, and this was me, classic case of me forever too. It's like, we understand that in theory, but we still can't connect that gap in practice. But I find that like the common theme is the closer you get to 40 or above, the more you kind of just don't give a crap anymore what other people think. And it makes your life so much easier. And I actually, now that I look at like a lot of the younger influencers and stuff like that, I think, I mean, unless they're the ones that have to have the perfect makeup and perfect hair every single day and whatever, but like the majority of people who are killing it online have decided at some point that they're good enough in some capacity and just went with that and stopped caring what other people thought all the time. Because you can't do this online thing if you're gonna worry about what everybody thinks, because you're gonna have people chirping from the sidelines no matter what you do online. It just is what it is. But like, you have to dig into yourself to figure out like, how do I make a difference for somebody else, and start there. Instead of worrying about like, what's my offer going to look like? What's my sales page going to look like? You know what I mean? And the longer I've been in this, the more I realize that it is so much mindset. Like, I would say that I'm a mindset coach, but I don't like talking about it as like my title as a mindset coach, because it's so generic. I'd say I'm like a success coach, but at the end of the day, all success comes from the mindset, I believe.
Yeah. I'm like 1,000% with you on that.
Where are you 7 years later compared to when you started? Like, how much inner work have you done? And when I talk about inner work, like maybe share like what kind of inner work you've had to do. Like, it's not just like picking up one book and being inspired, right? It's a continuous practice.
Yes. And actually, when I had some past trauma happen with what I call my past life with my ex-husband, that just threw me into such a dark place. And I don't tell many people this, but I know if I wouldn't have had my babies, I probably wouldn't be here. Like, I couldn't have left them. That's the place I was at. And I stuffed it because I had to put on my happy face as a mom. Right. And then fast forward, I got remarried to an amazing man. We have beautiful children. And then he got hurt. All of a sudden we had no income. And I'm like, who has 7 babies and doesn't want to stay home with them? And now my husband here has trying to get a hip replacement. And how in the world do I go to work? Right. So that's why I got into entrepreneurship. And then I realized as I was going in and I was doing really good, that I would get to a certain level of success and then I would backslide. And then I'd get to a certain level and backslide. And I kept attributing it to all these things. And it wasn't until I said, okay, something's going on here. Why am I self-sabotaging? That I had to start pulling back those layers and realize it was this trauma that was trapped in my body that I wasn't working through. And it was affecting everything, not just my business. It was affecting my marriage. It was affecting how I was as mom. It was affecting my self-esteem, my self-confidence, all those things. So I had to, first off, I guess a long way to answer a question, I had to be very intentional with knowing that I wasn't perfect and that I had terrible things happen to me and it was affecting me, instead of just thinking, well, if I hide it away, I won't have to look at it and address it. It was there. It was affecting everything. I was just ignoring it. Right. So once I said, okay, here's what's going on, and I was willing to touch the pain and feel it, then I was able to start working through that. So yes, there was phenomenal books that had helped with my mindset and with getting through some of that trauma. I went through to a couple retreats that I learned amazing techniques, journaling and breath work and visualization, which helped me to process through what had happened and to kind of come to the other side. And then with all those tools, I then started to apply it to my business. It's like I used to think having a vision board or anything like that was like for hippies or weirdos. Like that's literally what I said. I'm like, that's cuckoo. That's woo woo, right? But then it's like, no, because what you truly focus on grows. And although I wasn't focusing on this trauma that I had hidden, it was there and it was knocking and it was screaming. I was just trying to ignore it. So the more, once I started to go, okay, I want to get rid of you. I want to grow. I want to acknowledge you and who I was at that time and the pain I went through. So I could say, I still love you. You are worth everything. Then I was able to grow through that. So I definitely think all those things, and again, mindset was the biggest breakthrough for me, because I really had to address that. I really had to come to terms with the thoughts I was giving myself, the thoughts I was giving life to, the limiting beliefs that I allowed to stay in my head. I had to put them onto paper so I could say, golly, this really is what I'm thinking. This really is what I'm saying. But being very intentional with all of those things, which is hard, right? It's draining,
So hard.
emotionally intense. But I knew if I wanted to reach these goals and dreams I had for my business, I had to address why I was self-sabotaging. And that was one of the biggest things I've done emotionally, for sure.
Okay, and now let me ask you this. Now that you've gone through that yourself, and you probably still have work to do, because I think we will always have work to do, but how much better equipped are you to handle that kind of situation, to walk somebody else through it faster than they could do it?
Oh my gosh.
This is where I want to start getting into this more and more and more on these one-on-one like interviews, because the place that a lot of girls hesitate on coaching is like, well, I don't know if I'm going to get instant results, and I don't know, like, is this going to make me X amount of money and whatever. And it's like, listen, at the end of the day, my opinion is a coach's job is to walk you through and get you to the person you want to become faster, not your sales game. Like, that's a different type of, you want a sales coach, you go get a sales coach. But if you are self-sabotaging, you're stuck in fear and doubt, and you're like hitting that ceiling, like you said, then you need to get yourself unstuck so that you can literally you will not hit your sales goals, no matter how great your sales page and your offer is, with the best sales coach in the world, if you don't fix what's going on up here.
Yes.
So it's so funny how the coaching, and I paid a lot of money for coaching before, and I didn't hit my sales goals. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with this situation? You know what I mean? But it was 100% because I wasn't listening to what she was saying about my head.
Yeah.
And when you come from a background where it's like you said, no, I'm not doing that woo woo stuff, that's crap. It's like, I wouldn't call myself woo woo at all, but I definitely believe way more now in, like what you said, what you focus on grows, like law of attraction. I think that's real. I keep questioning actually right now, like, how did my kid end up with brain tumors? Because I felt like I was just about to get into such a good place in a lot of areas of my life. And then this happened, and it's just like, if I hadn't been doing the work, I would have been stuck in agony right now. But instead, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've gone through like wanting to throw up all the time and total fear, of course, but like, moms do hard things, and you walk through it and you get through it, and you literally dig deep and figure it out because it's for your kid, and you can do anything for your kid. And but the interesting thing about it is that I keep asking myself a different question, a different type of question, which is like, not like, why is this happening to us? I mean, I thought that like initially, like for a second, but then I was just like, what are we learning through this? How are we growing through this? And how is he becoming a stronger person through this? And what is this teaching us along the way? And it's like, it's a humbling experience, but you also realize how many people step up for you, how you can become somebody that steps up better for other people in situations like this. There's all these strange lessons. And if I was only focused on sadness, why me, why this, why him, then I would be missing out on all of that perspective, which is what I believe true leaders come to the table with, which is perspective, which only comes from experiences in life. So I love it. Do you have anything else to add to that? Because I want to shift gears. I got to ask you another question about something.
Yes, I would like to just add on to that, because you did ask me a question, and as to how do I think the speed has gone through from who I was to now. It's like Olympic speed. Like, it's bizarre. It's sometimes it takes my breath away to realize, holy cow, you just did this. This was your reaction to that trigger, as opposed to what it used to be. And I'm like proud of myself. I'm like, holy cow, that has become now more of the muscle memory. But if I hadn't worked intentionally, if I hadn't gotten a coach, right, to work on my mindset, knowing I have to do this work, I wouldn't be where I was. And actually, when I coach, I have it in the contract, like, you are willing to do mindset work, because they'll come at you. Okay, I want this and this. It's like, okay, but you do realize there's something else going on. We wouldn't be here if there wasn't, right? We all have things. And so if you are hiring a coach, you want to be successful, but you also know something's going on, right? That something going on is in here. It truly is.
I agree with you. And I also think that there are lots of like $1 million coaches out there who are making 7 figures a year. But if you don't resonate with their message or their experiences, then don't hire them. That's one mistake I made early on, is I paid like 23 grand to hire a coach who was like 10 years younger than me and didn't have kids. And that doesn't help me, because I go through it very different than she does. And so even though she might be a good coach for somebody, she wasn't the right one for me. And that was my choice to choose her. And I chose wrong. So what I would say to other women who are looking for a coach, it's just like, make sure that person, like, you resonate with what they've been through, or you'll just know in your gut that that's the person for you. So don't look for the flash and I make 7 figures. Like, that's not always the key. A lot of those girls are coaching a different type of person. And so I really think that it's important to look at who that person actually is, what they're going through, what they're currently walking through, what they've obviously been through, and how that relates to your life and where you are, because you want speed to get through those blocks that you have as quickly as possible. And somebody who's been through that same kind of crap can help you way faster than somebody who's read a book about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay. I want to ask you about time. So many women I talk to say, or I hear it when you're in Facebook groups and everything, you see it all the time. Like, oh, I wish I could do this, but I just don't have time. And I'm like, hey, Marcy, you have 7 kids. You tell me if you don't have time.
Right. And it's so funny, because I don't get that excuse.
But that's
because people have a hard time saying to me, I don't have time. Right. But it's said all the time. And it really is an excuse. Sure, we all have reasons why we can't do something. But when you say, I don't have the time to do that, you just haven't put enough weight on that action. Now, maybe you're too scared to do it. Maybe you don't want to do it. Maybe that's going to require growth, which hurts. So it's easy to say, well, I don't have time to do that. But if something's important to you, you will make the time. That we all have the same 24 hours. Now, when people really are like, like, here's my list of things to do, I don't know what to fit in. What we really need to look at now is, what do you need to get rid of? If you really don't have the time, if you really look at your schedule and you're like, I don't know how to fit one more activity in here, you have to get rid of something. And a lot of times that's things that we don't want to get rid of. Maybe if you look at all of your non-intentional scrolling on whatever social media, chances are you have some time built in there, right? Intentional scrolling, growing your business, that's one thing. Netflixing and chilling. I watch TV with my husband in bed right before we go to bed. Like that's a little downtime. That's the only TV I watch all day. Now, that doesn't mean I can't use that as even self-care or I'm just going to mellow out. Like, sure. But you know how it gets. You can get in front of the TV and you can sit there for hours and then you go, well, I didn't have the time. Yeah, you did. Right. You just, and again, this can feel painful. Like we don't want to say that we want to take away this fun, or we don't want to do this, or maybe we're doing something wrong. But if you really have something you want to do because you know it's going to grow your business, it's going to change your marriage, your relationship with your children is going to shoot through the roof, then you will make the time. So it's really just I don't want to do that. So here's my excuse. And that might hurt out there, but if that hurts you, chances are that's for a reason. So look at your schedule and go, what do I need to stop doing so I can start doing this if it's truly important to me?
Something that one of my girlfriends just posted a reel on this morning. I saw it, Brooke. She's amazing. She said the excuse that comes up often is I don't have time or money to invest in my business, but I still want to grow it. And she was just like, that's kind of the whole point. Like you have to do something different if you want something different. And over and over and over, we'll see, and we do it too. We consume a lot of free content from our favorite people. I mean, obviously that's how we kind of curate our social feeds and stuff. I'm very intentional about my feed. I don't like crap in my feed. If I have like a couple of times where I go, oh, I don't like that, and then I automatically unfollow them. But I think everybody needs to do that because you can get really bogged down in a lot of negativity. That's my new word, negativity. Well, it's almost like I haven't slept lately. So I think it's really important to go in and curate like your feed and make sure that you have people with messages that you actually want to hear over and over and over. But I think that she has a great point there because Brooke Schultz is her name. She was on our summit, but it's like, if you don't do anything different, you won't get different results because you will stay in that thing until you do the work. And the other thing about it is that a lot of people will say, well, you know, why can't you give that away for free? Or I really want to work with you, but I can't pay you or whatever. And it's just like, at the end of the day, it's like money and services are an energetic exchange, but also if you pay, I know you show up. So like the first time I set my prices for my one-on-one coaching, blew me out of the water and everybody else around me. But I just said, this is what energetically needs to happen for me to want to show up like at 1,000% every time. And my client was like, yeah, that sounds good. I'll just pay monthly. And I was like, what? But like, I showed up 1,000% to that call every single time. And so did my client. And that makes all the difference in the world, because if you're, even when I was in health coaching and stuff, it was like, well, why can't you do like a monthly program where it's like, you know, $37 a month or something? And I was just like, do you have any idea how much learning, research, and experience I have in this stuff to get this information? Like, I can't show up for $37 a month. And it's not because I don't want to give you the information. I would literally rather give it to you for free than for $37. That's how I felt. And so I ended up giving away tons of value for free all the time and never even asking for anything in return. And then at the end of the day, I burnt myself out. So it's a balance. You have to figure out how to serve a lot of people, but how to also make sure that you're showing up and getting compensated energetically, which happens to be with currency, which means you could trade services with somebody if that's what you want to do, or there's going to be a money exchange. And I think that we need to also, as women, here's our next question. How do you deal with the money mindset blocks around like women feeling scared to spend money or scared to make money?
Oh gosh. And that was a big one for me. Because my self-worth and self-esteem was so low that it was like, I'm not worth anything. You know, it's like sometimes those can be mixed in. So I think that's part of it. If you feel like, there's no money out there, or there's a lack of, or you aren't worth whatever you want to bring, like you said, energetically to you. I think a lot of that, again, shocker, goes to mindset and what you think you're worth. If you don't think you're worth anything, then that's what you're focusing on, right? I'm worthless. Yes. So why are you going to have money coming to you? Why are people going to pay for your services if you're not worth anything? So as I grew my self-confidence and my self-esteem, and I realized, no, I'm amazing. And this is who I am. And I really started to embody that highest version of myself which even now it's like, I can step into that and then something can hit me from the left. I'm like, like you said, it's a constant dance really of staying in that. But when I started to go, this is who I am, this is what I'm worth, this is my purpose driven path that I am on, and I am going somewhere, then you really start to attract that energy. Just like you said, that law of attraction, where people go, my goodness, like something's going on with her. You really do shine a light about you, but you can't get there if you stay in that low mindset, that low self-worth, that that blocks, right?
Well, and I also think that that's where inconsistency lives.
Yes.
Right.
So
if you're constantly trying to like psych yourself out, like pump yourself up to try to do some posts or live videos, and then you shrink back down into that old rut that you're still in. Like that's the thing, is that this is another way that a coach can pull you out of that. Like you need to get back up on the track and start running again, because this is who you actually are, and this is who you think you are, or this is the old muscle that keeps flexing, right? And so that is where inconsistency lives. I mean, it is the hardest place to be, because as somebody who deep down knows that you're made for more and you're capable of so much, but you have these like weird surface level fears and doubts and insecurities and whatever you want to call them. It's like you end up living this little ditch all the time of like not knowing if what you have to say is worth something. But guess what? The more you show up, the more you start to post. I mean, this is the easiest way to do it on social media, is to try to and build your email list, because you own it. You don't own your social media.
Yeah.
Right. So many people say, like, I found that with my summit, it was just like, well, I have, 15,000 people that follow me on Instagram. And it was just like, yeah, but guess what the algorithm does percentage wise to how many people will see that post when you post. It's not about a celebrity competition about who has the most influence. It's literally the fact that most people will not see your post because of algorithms. And so we have to use social media, show up consistently in order to but it is like throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks, because you have to put it out there so many times before it will start. I mean, I watched you for like a long time before I ever reached out to you to hook up with you. You know what I mean? Like you want to get to know somebody, but that doesn't take one magic post. It takes 10 little ones with some humor and some cheekiness and some personality, right? Like just show them frig up, right?
Yeah. And I think what can be so hard is that also means that we're being vulnerable, because really when you show up on social media as your unique self and putting yourself out there and not going, oh, I have to be perfectly curated, or, okay, I need to copy what that person just did. Right now we can get ideas. We can be absolutely excited and influenced, but you still have to show up as your unique self. And I think what's funny is when you finally decided to reach out to me, I was on my treadmill, I was listening to a podcast, and I got super inspired, and I was on my grass, a hot mess. I had like my headphones on, that's like a sleep headphone, and it was on my head. And I was just like, yo, this is what just happened. I'm super excited. I want to tell you about this. And I mean, I looked like trash, ran over. Let's just put that out there. But I had committed to myself that I was going to be just myself. I was like, you know what? I want to attract my tribe, and my tribe is also a hot mess mom on the, trying to get her stretching in so she hides on her front lawn. Right? Like,
you just need 5 minutes of quiet, right?
Yeah. Like, just leave me alone. I'm doing my thing on my pink yoga mat, and like the cars are driving by. Like, I was like,
that's what your message is actually in practice. Remember how we talked about the gap, that everybody understands the theory, but not the practice? That is a classic example of your mess is your message. Because
that's what you're like, I'm reaching out to this girl, and now we've connected, I
was like, I'm picking up.
And I've done other things similar. Yeah. I've done other things similar. And it's like those random spur of the moment, I'm just going to get on and talk. I have gotten more traction from things like that than where I'll sit down to write a really good, like those little mini blogs where you're like, I really want to share this. Now, those are still phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. But I've also noticed the more vulnerable I am in there, when I share part of my story, when I share, hey, I've been through trauma and this is how I've found this. And here's a little tip for you, sharing those free, tips and tricks. Right. But it's like, those I still get some great response, but when I'm just like, this is me, take me or leave me, here's what I got to say, people pay attention. So I think people are looking for that more and more, is someone that's real and raw and authentic. Because that's what we really want to be. I mean, here you are at the hospital, like you said, you just put your hair up, you're like, let's go, let's do this. And I resonate with that. Like that to me lifts me up. Like, oh my gosh, if she can do this when her kid's in the hospital, why can't I? What, because I didn't get my hair curled right? You know what I mean? Like it's inspiring. And I think that's what we're looking for, is empowered women, is to be inspired by other empowered women. Like, we're tired of the trash, right?
Totally. So here's my last point that I want to talk to you about before we go. I want to talk about collaboration over competition, because there is, like, I'm starting the ambitious mom movement. You have definitely the same vibe and your own movement happening. And I feel like here's where we get to choose, instead of like corporate mindset and like, that's my background, so I always default back to it, but it is a shark pit still, especially in sales. Like, even in your own company, sometimes it's just like backstabbing and brutal. And I was one of the only women salespeople, which means I made a ton of money and I had a ton of freedom, like in terms of like, come and go when you please, do whatever you want, be on holidays way more and stuff, because I was always working, but they didn't see that. So all the other women at my office, almost all of them, not all of them, almost all of them, talked behind my back, talked shit about me. Like, it was awful. And it's like, you and I are prime examples. Same with like the women that showed up to my summit and all the ones that I want to collaborate with this year. It's just like, we literally have the choice to do it differently, because these are our businesses and nobody makes any rules. The online world is still the wild, wild west, if you ask me, about rules. And we get to choose how we want to run our businesses. And I think that women in general crave collaboration. And I think that the fears and insecurities, when they come up, are it's what makes you look at somebody else's Instagram and be like, oh my God, did you see what she was wearing today? And it's just like, oh my God, like, we're all human. We're all going to judge a little, but like, it's catching yourself and being like, I'm being an asshole. Like, I can stop that now. Right. And then move forward and collaborate with the person. Right.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, where do you feel like collaboration over competition fits in this whole scheme, and from your perspective?
The whole scheme of what? Just life or
online business? Like, how much does it play a role in what you're trying to accomplish now versus maybe 7 years ago?
Well, exactly that. Like, the one thing I did love about direct sales, and I still do, is it has that little fun family culture, which even growing up, I didn't have a lot of girlfriends because I wasn't into the drama. I wasn't into those things. Like, those drove me crazy. I was like, I'll hang out with the guys because at least they'll tell you how it is. And that's how I have always lived my life, growing up with brothers, blah, blah, blah. And so I loved being able to have some relationship with women that would cheer you on, right? And then now with this and like online, I'm searching for that same thing, and it's out there. And just like you said, but we have to find that higher caliber of women who are running their own businesses, who do have massive goals and dreams, that this little pettiness does not stop them, nor is that what they're attracted to. And so I think we have more things like what you're doing with this ambitious women and groups like that. You will find them out there, because so many more women now have taken control of their businesses, are running and being the CEO, right? And so when you've gotten to that place, you don't want to go back. And so it's like girls, what is it? What do they say? Girls compete, women empower. That is all that I'm about. So I look for that same type of thing. So when you reach out to me, I was like, this lady is on it. I'm like, let's go. So I think even finding things like this, where it's like, let's be on each other's podcasts, let's do lives together, let's hop in each other's groups. And you know what? When one ship gets in the harbor, they all rise. Like, this mentality of, oh my gosh, she's going to take all the money. There is plenty of money for everybody, right? And I truly feel that when you are willing to turn around and help the one behind you, when you are willing to give praise to that girl who is kicking ass, that you are going to get that same thing. If you're the other one, bickering and pointing fingers and trying to take someone down, you will never go up, because the same thing's going to happen to you. I truly, truly, truly believe that. Like, you have to give energetically what you want, or you're not going to get it, right? But I do think it takes a certain level of woman who's also, grounded enough, empowered enough. But then we can also turn around and help those who aren't quite there yet by just being the example,
Yeah, I agree. I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, I'm probably going to get back to my little guy, but I really, really you coming. Is there anything else you want to add just to wrap it up? Any advice you want to give? This is the one I always love to ask is like, if you knew now or then what you know now about business, like what's the one best piece of advice you'd give to a woman who's sitting on the sidelines, who's maybe like a 6-figure thinker, but like is so scared to jump in? What's your best advice for her?
My best advice is to claim your day before anyone else does. So what does that look like? It looks different for everybody, but I truly believe that when you can have your own morning routine that looks like empowering yourself, and whatever that looks like to you, reading a podcast, reading books, journaling, visualizing, spending some time moving your body, whether it's just dancing out on the grass or getting on the treadmill, feeding yourself with something good. I love to read my scriptures in the morning, get quiet, get those downloads, right? That when you can start your day on your terms and what you know you need, that's best to have the rest of your day just rock it, that you need to create that morning routine. I put off a morning routine for years because I was like staying up all night because I finally had my me time and then I was exhausted all day, right? But when I flipped it and I went, okay, I'm going to go to bed early and I'm going to get up early and nobody's going to bother me. Again, I have a bunch of kids, right? But it's like, this is my time. My days are phenomenal compared to days that I don't have that. And you're setting your whole mindset up for success for your entire day. When you say, this is what's important to me, and I'm giving myself this time, I'm giving energy into my business, I'm working through all the things. I promise that if you start doing that, it will be leaps and bounds over where you're at now.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree with you. I think that the downloads, especially the downloads that you get first thing in the morning, I always call them like my shower thoughts, because that's like the only place go where it's quiet. But my shower thoughts are always the best. Or if I'm just journaling, drinking a coffee, looking out the window in the morning before anybody else is up, like that's exactly the same kind of stuff. And one of my intentions this year actually is to start creating a set morning routine, because I do still, even though I know in theory that I need to change it, I still have that gap where I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how to juggle that because one of my kids is still 2. So he still gets up in the night and I'm exhausted if I try to get up at 5. And sometimes he wakes up at 5 and then it pisses me off because then I'm like, this was supposed to be my time. And then I didn't start my day well, right? So it's just like, but I also allowed myself to have a little bit of grace in this season, especially what's going on right now. It's just like, I don't have a morning routine. I'm at the hospital every second day. My husband switch off, but like, I am making sure that I do have a little bit of journaling time and a little bit of like, I try to do like a social media post or something in the morning, the odd time, just because that's when you get the best downloads before you've had the whole day to completely corrupt your mindset.
Yes. And I love what you said, seasons. We're all in a season all the time. It changes. Even in your season, there's seasons, right? And so to definitely give yourself that grace, if you're like, I have a newborn, like what is a morning routine? That's okay. Even if it's 3 minutes while you are in the bathroom with the door shut, where you can just stop and go, okay, here's my 3 minutes to wash my face. You'll get downloads from that, right? Like you just need to give yourself those little bits where you go, okay, I'm going to intentionally focus on myself for a moment. That in itself is so, it's just refreshing, right? It does something to our soul when we go, we are worth.
That's another thing that I always thought I don't have time, but literally you will get downloads in 5 minutes of quiet, and you don't have to be sitting on your bed meditating perfectly kumbaya or whatever. Like you can literally be in the shower, lock the door so nobody else can bug you, and have like 8 minutes to yourself. And that also is self-care. So just turn off music or your podcast just for that 8 minutes and just allow yourself to have that time, like whatever that looks like for you. If it's coffee, if it's shower, if it's driving, if it's whatever, like try to turn off distractions even for 5 or 8 minutes a day and just watch how it changes your thoughts. It sounds crazy, but anybody like you and I who have been doing the work for a few years, it's just like you start to realize that those little tiny tweaks in your life are the things that actually change you.
Yeah. Those are your quantum leaps, is those tiny little habits that you create. Absolutely.
Yes. And it doesn't really happen without them. And that's the crazy part, because everyone's looking for the shortcut, but it's those little tiny things. And honestly, like if you ask most people, most women who are making 6 and 7 figures online on their own, most of them will tell you that they have some kind of a daily routine. Doesn't necessarily have to be morning, but like,
evening routine, the kid goes down for a nap and you're like, here's my 10 minutes. I'm going to go water the flowers. The amount of downloads I get when I'm outside is phenomenal, right? It's just to be quiet, it,
Me
take my
too.
shoes off, and it's like, it's something else. So no,
Nature
just
grounds me.
take that. Mm-hmm.
Guess what? If you're always listening to something or talking or doing something and you're multitasking, you don't hear like the bees buzzing or the wind in the leaves and I know that sounds crazy again, but it's just like, if you're the kind of person that enjoys that kind of thing and it sets your body at ease and your soul at ease, like that's the kind of thing you need to listen to and try to do it every day, even if it's 5. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, there you have it. Hot Mess Expresses. Here we are.
I love it.
Thanks so much, Marcy. I so appreciate you coming. I love this chat and I can't wait to do some more collaborations.
Yes, for sure.
So for anyone watching, this is what Nicole and I talked about on last week's, I'm going to call them Ambitious Mondays. We just talked about like the beautiful thing about collaboration is if there might be somebody in my audience that sees you and totally resonates with you. And I'm so pumped if that happens, and reach out to Marcy, go follow her on social, especially Instagram. Her Reels game is awesome. And I just love what you posted. It's always upbeat and happy and fun and funny. And I love your little like crown and your little faux fur and like all that stuff. It's so you. But yeah, like that's the other thing is just like, please focus on collaboration with other women over competition and just watch yourself change as you do it. It's not always about the sale. It's about lifting each other up, like you said. So I love that.
Yay.
Okay, my girl. Well, I'm going to sign off. So you have a great day and we will definitely talk soon.
You too. All right, girl.
Bye, Marcy.
Bye.
Take care.